good side.
You are looking real good. Hey, we are recording, sir. Well, I'm going to kick it off in 3, 2, 1. Well, welcome to another episode of Successfully Unsuccessful. I'm your host, Josh Dietrich. Today, physically in the house, I have Mr. Alex Andersen. Say hello, sir.
Hello, everybody.
How are you, brother?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me, Josh.
Dude, so cool just to get to know you briefly. Obviously, we've connected a chance on the phone, and having you here today, sharing some stories. I'm excited to hear your story today, your successfully unsuccessful story, your journey. But what I get excited about most is a younger dude who's got 4 kids, who's trying to navigate life, but still making it work, right? So I want to hear just high level, where'd you grow up? Tell us about your family and what do you do?
Yeah, no, Josh, thanks for having me today. Just super excited and honored to share. No pun intended. Shout out to the company.
There you go.
Grew up in Brooklyn Park for 12 years. Oldest of 4 kids. I have a younger sister, 2 younger brothers. We're about 6 years apart, and 2 parents, unbelievable parents. Love them to death. When I was 12 years old, we moved from Brooklyn Park, kind of tougher elementary school, but to Minnetonka. So talk about extremes.
That is a different dynamic.
It was an amazing dynamic, to say the least. So moved to Minnetonka when I was 12, and lived on a lake there. Learned how to wakeboard. It was just so much fun. So became a skipper. Loved playing football throughout high school, and big in FCA and all things like that. So it's kind of how I got brought up in the Twin Cities area. That's good.
And so now, fast forward, 28 years old, 4 kids. What does success look like? I mean, how do you compartmentalize your busy life right now? Like, talk to me.
So I fast forward 10 years from right 10 years ago. We're living in my grandparents' house in Lake Minnetonka. I have 4 kids, and I'm 28 years old. So people look at it and they're like, Alex, like your life must just be perfect and put together and all these different things, right? You're living the dream. You're on the lake. And I'm like, guys, this is just grace of God. Like, I never expected to live. Like, this is just a huge blessing. We got married there. Never would I thought we'd live. So it's just like, talk about successfully unsuccessful. It's like, I did nothing to earn where we're at today.
Isn't that so true about our lives?
It's grace, right? What is grace? It's a free gift. It's a free gift that God gives us. And so I'm super thankful for my wife's grandparents.
Yeah.
Late Tom Warner, who actually passed away 2 weeks ago. Amazing man of the faith. And Bart, just amazing people.
This is the gospel singer, right?
No,
it's the other grandpa.
This is another legend within the family. He's a guy we haven't talked about, but I'm like
legends.
As soon as you said successfully unsuccessful, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's me. Because I'm thinking, I'm like, a 55-year-old will look at Alex like, you're living the dream I aspire to.
Yeah.
Guys, if this is the dream, there has to be something greater.
Yeah.
And I say that in a way of not gloating, but I'm like, I don't know how long we're going to live there. We could leave in 90 days. We have no idea.
That is just...
And we'll go to a townhome, we'll be super happy.
So when you look back at that and where you're at in that journey, clearly there's been hard work involved, and hard work is just in your way maybe feeling that you're using your giftings, your passions, your talents, your skills. But what drove you early on? Like how did you define success? Maybe, right out of high school, going into the college era, or even maybe as a teenager, and knowing that your father had some success and that you were able to maybe jump in early in your career as a day trader. It sounds like at 16, is that right?
Yeah, that's
so.
Right.
How was success viewed for you at that age, and even seeing your dad and others around you that were successful?
Yeah, when you're 13 and 16, I think the concept of success, you have no idea. You really have no idea. When I'm looking back, it's success purely means money.
Yeah.
It means the ability to do what you want. Right? That's what success is. I'm going to go to a question you asked just right before. It was actually, how did you find hard work? Like just the concept of how do you build that concept of hard work? I'll never forget. I'm 12 years old. And I'm going to attribute a lot of this podcast to my dad. My dad trained me in so many different ways. And he goes, Alex, hop in the car. We're going to go to the farm in Wisconsin. And I go, okay. And for 3 days straight, I dug holes for trees to get planted 3 feet by 3 feet deep. And all I remember was, I never want to do this again.
Ever. There's a movie, Holes. Have you seen it?
No, I've seen it.
It's literally that.
Is it Izzy or is it? I forget the guy's name.
The famous young dude.
Zara.
Yes.
Whatever.
I don't remember either.
But anyways, I look back and I'm like, my dad did that for a reason. discipline, creativity, entrepreneurship.
Wow.
But that was a seed of, this is an option. God's going to give you the ability to choose. But also, how do I build work ethic within my kids? So now, 28 dad of 4, I have a 6.5-year-old son, 4.5-year-old daughter who I just adore, and 2 other sons. And I think of, how do I start now creating environments for my sons
Totally.
to not be lazy, not just sit on the couch, but have a work ethic that is greater than anybody else's, right? Because I believe that honors the Lord. But how do I do those things?
Yeah.
So I want to be consciously competent. Where, okay, he's 6.5, what can I do? But when he's 12, what can I do? How about when he's 18?
Yeah.
How can I put things in his life so he builds those things? Because they don't come
You
naturally.
are right on, man. Like, most people don't have that opportunity to choose how to create a structure for their children. For example, let's look back at the old days, right? You worked on a farm, you lived on a farm.
Yeah.
It was the way of life.
It's embedded.
It has to be done, right? And these are chores. But now we're just so taken care of. And literally, and you say that, and I'm looking at myself going, just like that, my oldest is 13, right? And just like that, I'm going, I can barely get them to keep their basement clean where they have their friends over and play Xbox and literally throwing wrappers away or lifting the toilet seat, right?
My in-laws live in Loretto, 26 acres. Probably you let me know if you need some yard.
Okay, put them to work there. Hey, digging holes, right?
Oh,
you know what you should do
holes, baby.
You know what you should do? Literally have them see that movie. Have them watch it, and then
throw them a shovel.
And then I'll say, hey, I have a deal for you. I have an opportunity for you to earn money and dig some holes. A week later or something. I would seriously send them.
Though, and it's like just things like that. It creates a memory.
100%.
How do I create moments for my children?
Yeah.
Because I look at how did I become successful? My dad did that. He was really good at that.
Yeah.
Of creating moments for me to look back on now.
And say, I put in the work. Something happened here. There's something to have a perspective, right? How do you implant that memory so it sticks, right? Yeah.
And so I'll transition to your next question, Josh. Okay, what does success look for you? One of those next moments for me was I was 16 years old, and my dad sits me down and he goes, "Alex, you're gonna have a couple options here. You're gonna start working. Do you understand? I understand. Okay, here's your options. I'm gonna make you go get a job. You're gonna go work 20 hours a week, or you can work with me in the mornings. You're gonna wake up early, and you're gonna learn how to day trade." And I'm like, I'd rather do this. Sure, let's give it a try. And so part of just
better than digging holes.
Better than digging, way better than digging holes.
Yeah,
and so one of the past lessons of my life is he goes, "Okay, here's $5,000, and I'm going to teach you a couple things, and I'm just going to let you go." Right? And I'm 16. I'm like, $5,000, like I'm rich.
Yeah, right.
right.
I get to play with this money.
And so 4 weeks later, it's all gone. And
that's it.
Hit in my stomach of I failed my dad. I've let him down. I got it, but then just like I gotta get it back. What can I do? And so it started from failure to I'm so sorry to I'm gonna work hard to how do I achieve something to I'm gonna grind. So that was the process, and it was a moment. So I'm 16. I'm like, all right, I'm pot in. I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna wake up at 5:30 every morning, and I'm just gonna go.
So you lost the money in a month, and then how much time went by before you borrowed something or went back to the pot? Did he put you right back on the horse? Or did you take some time off?
No, he made me do what's called just simulation. He goes, "Hey, okay, now it's practice time. We're going to hone this craft. We're going to really get into this, and and it was almost not a bait and switch. I look back now, but it's like, he got me interested. He intrigued me. He created an event where now it's, okay, let's commit to the process. So started committing to the process, getting better. And that's really where
well, bait and switch, right? But it's like, no, it's like, by the way, you saw this opportunity, but it doesn't easy come, easy go. It's true. You got to put the work in. So if you want it to just poof, you see how fast it can happen. Now let's go the right way.
Yeah.
And you're like, I'm in because I want to make it back.
There's nothing ezy in life, right? There's nothing that just comes. Something comes quickly, it can go quickly.
Absolutely.
And that was a lesson. A really good lesson.
So what happened after that?
Yeah, and so I look at it, I'm like, I'm super grateful for that moment. And then I look at it, okay, what are the next 6 years inspire, right? To the point of 22 graduating college. This is a moment in my life where So I committed at 5:30 every morning through year round for the next 2 years. I structured my high school around this. I took the first hour off so I could commit to this. So I'm like, I need to be successful. I have to.
So you had drive to make money and
I
to
wanted
what?
to make money and have freedom.
Yeah.
And for some reason, that's what it was. I'm like, well, yeah, like God's just put competitiveness within me. We talked about pickleball. Like I from pickleball to football to ping pong tables to card games to
whatever it is.
Let's just throw dice. Yeah, it just doesn't matter. Yeah, I love competing. God's made me that way, and so I'm like I want to be good.
Yeah.
I want to be really good. And so I just committed to the process and became good at it. And then my dad's like, well, now that you've actually have a little bit of a track record, like let's change this into what would it look like if you marketed this? You've developed a way to do this. So now he took me from creating. So when you think about business, right, it's creating a product. Once you have a product, what do you need to do?
Go sell it, baby.
Go sell it. So he taught me how to create something that works and can be repeatable to then how can you create a marketing campaign? And so then when I was 17, he goes, hey, by the time you graduate college, how cool would it be if you came up with a course on how to trade? I'm like, that's weird. Like, why would I do that? And then I started thinking, like, it's kind of cool.
This is like before courses were big time, man. Like,
so,
it's the thing.
Yeah. And so I was doing video coursework, and we're we went on vacation. It was just a ton of fun. So we committed video coursework and doing this type of thing, 10, 12 years ago. And trading in front of people live and doing webinars with hundreds of people on and real money at risk. And it was intense. It was a lot of fun. But he taught me, okay, how do you settle it? How do you hook them? How do you sell the first product that leads to the next product that leads to... So now I'm so grateful for that because it shaped my mind as a 17 and 18-year-old too. Okay, whatever I do for the rest of my life, I'm going to be using those tool sets. And I hate to say it, but whether it's finding men for Bible studies to looking for a wife,
right?
Do whatever.
Right.
It's just that skill of interacting, asking really good questions, and then leading conversations in that way, Josh. So I'm just really grateful for that experience of just trying to figure out life at a young age.
How unique though. Like, I mean, my experience at that same age was like, all right, well, the working at the grocery store at 14, paper route before that, and mowing and shoveling, the typical things. But same idea. The entrepreneurial itch wasn't there because I saw my father had a job. He was a business owner. I saw my grandfather own a lot of trucks, and he was wealthy, but driving a truck, always busy. Never saw a clear picture. But when I look back at that, and then I hear this story, I'm just going, what an amazing, very unique, just way to expose someone to the economic engine of business. And you can reap what you sow, and you can develop the ability to communicate well. And when you do it well, there's actually monetary reward and a product. What is the product and how do you bring it to market in the most effective way? So was some of that digital, or was that sales process? Was that more over the phone and webinar?
Email campaign.
Okay, you did have digital.
Live webinar presentations. So I'm 17. I'm going through a 20 deck
PowerPoint online
presentation of here's what it is. I haven't thought about it. Yeah, I mean, branded kit trader, all these things. Right?
That is so neat.
It's just so funny, man. Look at that.
Gosh.
Really but yeah.
So now your brothers probably didn't get that same treatment, or did they?
No. And life changed drastically, right?
Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where I tell my Denham, at the time I was like, he's kind of busy. This is stupid.
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah, right.
I look back as a father and I'm like, it's brilliant.
Genius.
It's brilliant.
I'm like,
so I'm really grateful for that because my brothers didn't have that experience, right? And so I look at it as, okay, how do I create a repeatable experience for my sons? To have the opportunity to fail. I think failing is one of the best things you can do as a man in the workplace.
100%.
It's to fail because then the accountability becomes really real, and you have a decision point then. And your decision point is: do I sulk in my failure, or do I press on?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do I continue to press on? Do I develop that perseverance, that character, that grit, that
discipline, that accountability, keep showing up, right? Those are the character traits, man, that just, I think that's the separation. Unfortunately, those are what table stakes once upon a time, all those things like integrity, character, like that was the world, and like, if you think about our government in some ways, in God we trust. And the idea is we hold these truths to be self-evident. In some ways, we can govern ourselves. We should be able to, under the truth that we know that God is in control, and that gray isn't gray unless it's an area where we don't understand, right? And it's like, I think that day is becoming more evident that the more we operate with integrity, and like, you just all day long, celebrities or entrepreneurs and scandals and this and that and the other thing, like, making money now isn't the hard part. Making money in a healthy way, and doing the right thing with that money, and realizing that it's actually not ours, it's not yours, it's all God's, right?
Yeah.
So that's very crazy to think that 6.5 now is your oldest. What are you starting to think about for him to sort of replicate like that amazing experience for you? Because you have a high bar now, dude.
Oh, trust me. And so I was talking with my father-in-law the other day. I'm like, how do I buy real estate apartments so that my sons can become plumbers and electricians? And how when he's 14, he's going to go in and guess who's doing the maintenance? My 14-year-old that I'm driving out there. So just things like that. I'm trying to think of that, of how do I just develop that where, all right, let's buy an apartment complex. And in 6 years, he's going to understand how it financially works, how it builds long-term equity, how if there's something that needs to get done, guess what? It's on your shoulders. You can either pay somebody $300 an hour, or son, I'll pay you $200 an hour. What do you want to do? So that's how I'm thinking about it now, John.
I love it.
It was so critical for me to think, okay, because my dream for him, and I told this, I'm like, how cool would it be if he gets that experience and he's 18 years old, and rather than go to spend $60,000 a year in college, he's building a network, and he's fixing these $300. He builds a network of plumbers. All of a sudden, he builds his own business enterprise. Whereas you think of the need in the next 20 years. Guess what Gen Z kids aren't going to do?
Yeah.
They're not going to do that.
No.
So that's what I think about. It's businesses like that.
It's amazing. And I think what's cool about that lesson is the opportunity to learn, and it's really to be grateful for when you do get to a place where you feel like you've arrived, and like you're describing now, and the home you live in, and how people maybe perceive you. You look back and know what you did and didn't do, but you look back at the opportunities you had and know how those little pivotal key points molded you to be able to stomach and to be able to persevere. And as much as we don't want to take credit, we are human, we have a choice, right? And so it's not about taking credit, it's about being the person or the character you just described, that we can instill those values. And so I'm kind of the same way when I'm thinking, like, my oldest son is into Pokemon cards, and it's like, oh, these things have value. Okay, what does that mean to you? How do we determine value? Well, it looks cool. All right, that's how we can start, but that has nothing to do with its value itself. So they were trading, I'm like, what cards did you give away that have value that you're not even aware of, right? So selling their first card for $600 or $500 on eBay, that was a big deal. It was super cool. And it's like, do you know how long it takes to make $600 doing anything else that would pay you $15 an hour or $12 an hour, and use your brain versus your body. And by the way, using your body actually pays very well, but let's not look at this particular thing. Let's look at that. So as a father, right, isn't it our job just to guide him?
I love how you brought up Pokemon. My son just got absolutely horsed in the trade. It was a great opportunity to talk about value.
He got taken advantage of?
Yeah, he traded to. It was like, hey buddy, like let's discuss this. Like, I'm in sales. I love selling. It's just the heart of how I've grown up. And it's an opportunity of negotiation. How do you teach a little 6-year-old how to negotiate?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, they see it already, right? When it comes down to just, I saw your post recently about the bribes of candy, selling candy bag. Genius, man. Like, less rotten, less sugar rotten on the teeth. There's a lot of reasons for that.
Well, I believe in incentivizing.
Yeah, I love it too.
So,
Dangle the carrot.
Yeah. So I want to give my kids, they're all their ages, and there's going to be different right incentives.
Mhm.
Right now, Halloween candy, that's a tough thing to give up. But so the incentive was, I'll pay you for your Halloween candy. Every time you go and hustle to that house and grab candy, I'll pay you 25 cents a piece of candy, but it's your decision to sell it back to me. So we sit down and Dad, I got 60 pieces. Okay. You just start handing me one by one, and every four I'd give him $1. And he kept seeing it pile it up, and all of a sudden he's like, I got $16. Like,
that's a way to visually do it too.
Yeah,
right?
It was an amazing experience, Joshua. And this was my wife's idea. So I got to give it to her. I mean, she's so good. This was her idea. She goes, we don't need to be eating a bunch of candy and like, and I'm like, well, what? Like, she goes, well, what if we do this? I'm like, honey, you're a genius. You're a genius.
Right? Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's good, man.
So it seems like, with your upbringing and developing at an early age, being able to communicate passions and talents and giftings and skills, like, you've had a number of different things you've got to try. How have you thought about your passions and giftings as it relates to, doing what you feel called to be doing as Alex, as a very unique, God created individual in his likeness? How have you started thinking about your purpose as it relates to your passions and skills? Because that happened earlier on, but I love this question because it forces us to really consider, what do we get excited about, and what do we know that when we are excited and we do the things we're really great at, that we actually can kill it when you have a couple of those things.
This whole concept of passion and skill set and opportunity is what I'm going to put it in. Okay, so in the marketplace, we make money through opportunities that we take and take advantage of, right? And passion doesn't always lead to money.
What you're selling. Oh, that too.
Well, so passion doesn't always,
correct.
Like think of a singer.
Yeah.
I'm just so passionate about singing, Josh. I just want to be the best singer possible. But what if you suck?
Yeah.
What if your skills
be
don't
very
align?
Passionate about it?
Well, what if your skills don't align to your passion? And what if by the way, the opportunity in your skills don't align to your passion? So taking this concept of what am I passionate about, I was taught from a young age of what you're successful at, you will innately become passionate about.
Interesting.
So almost a reverse engineer of what am I good at? Skills. What have I had success at? A little bit of opportunity with skills. And out of that, it's like, wow, so for me, my passion is I love winning and seeing things grow. I love just how do we win and how do we see things grow, right? So whether it's, I'm so passionate about discipling men because there's no greater joy than seeing a man die to himself and then come alongside of a woman and just generations of stronghold of sin get absolutely
obliterated
through the discipling of men. So like, there's passion in that, but it starts with, hey, like God has equipped me from a long time, like to lead and disciple men. It's a skill set to the opportunity. I mean, the harvest. I mean, it's out there.
Yeah.
There's so many amazing men out here, but they need other men to come alongside them, and then the passion is what continually fuels that because you see that. So
and it's interesting. So I love that you went down this path because I talk about it all the time. And one of my favorite words is ikigai, ikigai.
Yeah.
Have you heard that?
Yeah.
Purpose, reason for being. Okay, so there we go. That's
all the
Venn diagram. So we talked about passion,
Yeah.
right? So I think what you said was very interesting. That when we have our talents and gifts, we kind of got. It's like, hey, you're a great 3-point shooter, right? We're gonna put you as point guard. Oh, duh, right? Doesn't mean they have passion yet for it, right? Or right? So some of these 7-foot, NBA players can be point guards in some ways, as opposed to centers, which is just wild. Whole nother topic. We won't even go down basketball. But what I'm saying is exactly what you said. But there's 2 other components, right? The passion can kind of follow. It shouldn't be something you're really good at. That's terrible, right? Like I hate getting up. I'm not motivated. I don't have energy. So I agree with I love that addition. But then it's like, what does the world actually need? Is that to serve, right? So using my giftings, and because I can get up in the morning energized to go do what I'm equipped to do. The 4th bucket is if I'm serving with what people need, that's selling money or selling equipment or providing a service or selling a product or a widget or manufacturing X, Y, or Z, creating solutions. That's what the world needs. They also need Jesus, as you mentioned, coming alongside guys. But that economic engine is the piece that requires us to figure out, because we can do all three of those things. The world needs Jesus. We can be passionate about equipping men and getting excited about coming alongside them, and we might be really good at it. But then your choices around having 4 children, right, and providing and having them go to private school or having the education or even the opportunity to teach them day trading or something won't exist, right, unless you have a good economic engine, right? So when I think about purpose, it's hitting that center spot, and it's always evolving because we're not dead, you know, and if we're not dead, he's not done. And so you're specifically talking about maybe relationship crafting, building rapport, because you went with skill, talent first, and passion sort of is a byproduct of what your skill is.
I want to double down on what I'm best at.
Yeah. I love that.
I'm a huge believer in that.
Yeah.
What am I good at? Where are my skills? Where has God equipped me?
Right.
Okay. From there, I look at where are opportunities I can go and apply those from an economic standpoint. Right. So, okay, I'm good at relating. I'm good at asking questions. You know, leading people, etc. Okay. What are roles in the business place that I can go and just crush? And when those are humming, I argue to challenge how is passion not just innately involved in that? Right. Think about like the success you've had. It's like, well, you know, from your skill sets to why you just crush an opportunity. It's like, well, wow, I'm passionate about this business. And that grows. Couldn't agree more with that.
Yeah. And part of it is too, like, the passion for me is more general, like you're describing in some ways, that it's about creating. You know, I don't care what I'm selling. I don't have a passion for, you know, XYZ water, you know, water filters or some of the liquid products I created, or, you know, anything I've ever sold in my life. It's been less about that, right? It's about more of solving the problem, but getting excited about that talent I get to use to do that. Super cool. So I think what's neat though is thinking about those skills and those passions and what the world needs in the economic engine. How do you see that changing over 20, 30 years, right? As you move into this next layer of life, you know, and you had this front end of grind and hard work and sniff of and taste of success and making money and building your family. But how does that change? Maybe a different way of asking that is, how does your table or your teeter-totter of time versus money, how is it level today? Is it level or is it lopsided? And if it's lopsided, which way is it? I'm really curious. This is always a hard question.
Yeah. I think it's a true teeter-totter.
Ebbs and flows on that. Yeah.
It's Q4. We do almost half our business in Q4. It's this. But guess what? I specifically plan time to do this. And then there's just seasons of life where it teeter-totters, right? And so I look at my life now, right? I've been doing what I've been doing for 6.5 years. Love what I do, right? And I don't love it because I like leasing. I'm not passionate about leasing.
Yeah.
Passionate about the opportunity that it gives my family.
Right.
Like that's, and by the way, I'm meeting with people on a daily basis, working with executives, working with business decision makers, having those types of conversations. Like I love that. That's what drives me.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not the actual product per se. It's just that process, right? So I view 20, 30 years from now, it's okay. I have 4 children. I'd love like maybe another kid, who knows, right? I want to be obedient to the Lord. My wife and I, we were 21 we got married. 3 weeks into our marriage, I'm like, honey, what do you want to do? She's like, honestly, I just want to be a mom. Oh, talk about a bullet between the eyes.
Did you see that coming? Are you just assuming?
No, our wedding day, I said 5 years.
Before having?
5 years. Our wedding day. This is 3 weeks later. So 3 weeks later, I'm like hit with extreme conviction, and I'm like, oh man, would I deprive my wife of what she wants to do, despite my own personal?
Was she working professionally at that time?
No, we were in college. Okay. We were in college.
Oh, jeez.
So we're 20 and 21. We're finishing our last year. And I'm working at the time still, so I'm working throughout college, managing money, and I'm like, okay, like, let's have a baby. And I'm thinking that's gonna take us months to get pregnant. It's like 4 weeks later, I'm like, oh no.
And you're how old? 20?
We were 21, 20. Yeah. So when Brent was born, I mean, my wife took her last final April 28th, gave birth May 1st. We graduated 2 weeks later. We moved back to Minnesota. We were
Oh, because
22.
you were in Virginia at
We were
this
in
time.
Virginia. We were at Liberty.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
It was, and I look at God's sovereignty, the joy, and just clinging to His promise that children are a delight from the Lord. They are a gift from the Lord. Why would you deprive yourself of that gift?
Were you feeling like maybe I wasn't ready for this? That you robbed me of this time that I was supposed to have with my wife? Was it? Did you have a selfish kind of?
It was. So I'm a big pros and cons guy.
Okay. Like a list even?
List guy. No. T chart. Put it on the list. Every con. Guess what it started with? Me.
I mean, there's no other way.
Yeah,
At that age, right? I mean,
no, but that's what it was. Is well, I want to travel. I want to play golf. I want to do sports. I want to build more money. I want to get out of debt. I want to do this. I want to. And guess what? It was all me. And this was a time in life where it was like there was so much uncertainty. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I look at him like, God, your sovereignty, your goodness of bringing this son into my life. Where the year of 2017 was our life blew up.
So now we're going. Which year was that? Was that year?
2017.
Yeah,
that's when our son was born. Yeah.
Okay, so briefly talking about your life blowing up because you had this brand new marriage, just finished college, had a baby, and remind me in the timeline of your father.
Yeah, guys, my dad is one of my biggest role models. He taught me business. He taught me how to have conversations. Taught me how to sell. We worked together. Long story short, in 2015, IRS storms our house. So I just proposed, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting. Dad, what's going on? I had no idea. Fast forward, it's a huge audit process, this, and this. Our wedding, didn't know if he was going to be at our wedding. He's able to make it. The process was 2 years long. It was horrible. He gained a ton of weight. Everybody, like, there's the stress of that. And so, we're coming into December of 2016. I'll never forget. We had just got married. We just found out we're pregnant. We didn't want to be pregnant. So I'm like, man, God, you're just going to show up. I know you will. And I'll never forget sitting in the courthouse, right? My dad's getting convicted of tax evasion. And seeing the unjustness of the earthly system. My only thought to this day, I close my eyes and I'm just picturing myself in the pew. I'm just like, I'm so glad my advocate is Jesus.
Amen.
I'm so glad. Like that when my day comes, my grandfather-in-law Tom just died 2 weeks ago. I'm like, when he was there sitting in front of the Lord, guess who his advocate was? It was Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
It wasn't a sinner. It wasn't somebody who's this. It's Jesus Christ our Lord who's our advocate, who's just.
Yeah.
By the way, we have a just judge.
Yeah.
He's just.
Audience of one, right? And the true eternal judge,
Man. And so Josh, I look at that. So my dad gets convicted for 18 months. And so all of a sudden I'm 21, we're 6 months pregnant. I have 3 younger siblings. My mom, taking care of my mom. And I'm like, all right, God, like chips are in at this point. Like I faith, reliance, like, okay.
I'm like never before.
Never before.
I mean, you had a choice though, right? You had a choice. And my guess is there's some things that weren't so easy to choose, right? And when you think about that, you had to choose to say, you know what, I have all this going on, and you're either going to embrace it or you're going to run from it and do whatever, do you.
Yeah. And I look at that, and I'm going to put choice in a parentheses because I look at how God gifted me, how He's prepared me. That's what hit me. For 4 months in, I'm like, I believed the promise that He's prepared me for this day. He's prepared me for this trial. And by the way, it was so hard. It was hard on our marriage. It was hard in my family dynamics. We're bleeding money financially. But it's like, guess what? God would just show up. People would give. Like, we would sell things at the perfect time. I'm like, okay, I have to make X amount of money this month, God. Like, I'm on my knees. Let's just like, okay, show up. And I just look at the community of believers who came around us, who love my mother. By the way, they're still married. Like, I believe their marriage has never been better. My mother is an absolute saint. I mean, she is incredible. The amount of people who said, hey, you should divorce him. And she...
Did she ever once go...
No. She I married him. Like, talk about...
So you saw that role model in your mom as an example of standing by.
Just like, you know what? Guess what? He's a sinner just like me. And I'm just... It brings me to tears. It does. And it's like... like my mother, just like her steadfastness to just like absolutely just be devoted.
Yeah.
When my dad, he didn't just like, did he deserve the devotion? Who knows? But she's committed to the marriage. They're both committed. And like, he messed up, and what doesn't matter. Like, talk about just how the Lord loves us.
Yeah.
Like, it became really real for me.
Yeah.
But
totally.
but then I'm gonna bring it back to the joy.
Yeah.
God's okay. All right, like, honey, you want to be a mother? Like, okay, God. Our son was the greatest joy for my mother. Like, just to bring it, like, oh, I mean, just
well,
like,
first grandson, because you're the oldest, right? So
first grandson. She, her husband's gone, but we moved back to Minnesota. She gets to be with her grandson,
brand new baby,
and it's just like God's plan to do is perfect.
What was the timing from him actually going and checking out of life for this, incarceration to the timeline of how old your child was in the wedding? What was the time frame?
So we got married in June of 2016.
Yep.
He was convicted on the December of 2016. He goes to prison on January of 2017.
Okay.
Our son is born in May.
Okay.
So about 4 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just boom, boom, boom.
Just boom, boom, boom. And I look back, I'm like, that pace of life was insane. So what I'm running now in pace of life, I'm like, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Like 4 kids,
yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Like, just throw some more kids on.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's when you get to 4, man. Why not? Why stop?
Oh, why stop? It's just so it's to that level of like, okay, God, like, you have just sustained every period of life. I'm honestly in a place, Josh, where I'm like almost on guard.
Yeah.
I'm like,
well, the enemy, he doesn't want to see that. I mean,
well, I'm like, what's next?
Yeah.
It's honestly what I feel like. I'm like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
So,
but that's a mindset where the world is evil. There is evil in the world, and there is sin, and the enemy doesn't want to see this. See a man who is enabling other men to take steps towards Christ, to build the body in the way you are, to see a spiritual leader in the home, influencing children and your wife and leading your family. He doesn't want to see that successful, right? And so to be on guard is okay. But at the end of the day, it's more of like, the enemy's going to come, but I already know who won the battle, right? Is that how you feel in some ways? Because I think there's some adversity in my life for my oldest child. We didn't know if we were going to have him because he had a cyst on his lung, and it pushed his heart over. And I ended up having a friend just 6 months ago lose his own child to the same thing my son survived. Why is that fair? And my attitude was, God, I don't know why this is happening, but I just trust it's going to be okay. And it was never a question. It was never a question, and I never expected. I never even thought there could be this scenario for my wife. It wrecked her. So I'm curious, in your mindset, in your heart, in your faith, where your peace level is, knowing that, we all go through seasons, that there's something right around the corner.
I'm a big believer in understanding your spiritual gifts.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So if I'm to say theory, it's leadership, faith.
I love it.
Faith.
Yeah.
Right. And prophecy, just the ability to apply God's word.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is. But faith was just built. I mean, it was just, man.
I mean, to its core.
We're just gonna all right, God, show up.
Yeah.
Pleading, show up. And so now I'm like, okay, 28, these beautiful 4 kids, my wife. I'm like, okay, God, show up. What's next? Come on. What other adventure are you gonna take us on that's gonna just obliterate us in a way that?
But being obedient and being ready and being still and waiting on the Lord, is an incredible. I'm 39, dude, and this is the first year I felt like I've never been running or driving my own car. And so I'm curious, when you have what you have on your plate, do you feel the peace? Do you feel still, or is your world pretty chaotic? I know what it looks like in a home. I know.
Oh, Josh, it's still chaotic.
Yeah.
It just is. But it's like, can I trust him through the chaos?
For sure.
He's a God of order, right? The world's of chaos. The worldly father is of chaos. We're living in that world.
Yeah. Yeah.
But is my hope set on him who is of order,
Mm-hmm.
who has made all things,
Mm-hmm.
who's sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know I don't have the mind of
Mm-hmm.
God's sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite lines is, I look back and I see that he's faithful.
Mm-hmm. Amen. I love that. Yeah.
Right? I look back. It's hard to look forward and see his faithfulness.
And there's very few reasons we should actually look back, unless we're needed to be reminded.
And that's what it is. Why does God give why does he give the Israelites just stories and testimonies of Abraham and all these patriarchs of the faith?
He's faithful then, he'll be faithful now.
Exactly. And that's the promise that they cling to, right? Is they cling to the promise of God did these things, right? In church on Sunday, we just went verse by verse through Mary's song. We just started a Christmas series. And it was so good. Mary is just clinging to the promises of how God has showed up consistently.
Wow.
A woman of just theology and faith who said, God has done this, he's done this, this is who he is. And she's just describing right after she finds out that.
Where's that at in Scripture?
Luke 1, verse 46 through 56.
Wow, okay. I'll check that out.
So it's just, going Grace Church's website, it's just verse by verse, I'm like, just blown up by this. It's so good. But we need to be looking back.
Yeah.
Because he is faithful. He is who he says he is. Right? So now, in life, it's okay. Now I'm running a career. I'm trying to work as hard as I can. Like, my whole goal now is, how do I provide financially for my family and make disciples? Family.
Great. That's amazing.
Well, it's seriously that simple. Like, my goal is, I want to make money. Like, that's a key part of why I do work. But within work, guess what I'm doing? We've seen men come to faith at Honor. I just think of some of this
in the workplace.
Workplace discipleship. Everyone's
the largest new church.
Talk about a mission
marketplace,
field.
right?
Talk about a mission field. It's wherever you're working.
Yeah.
So it really is.
We got to segue there, because this is where I do want to touch on, and what I've been so inspired by you, your story, and also one of your mentors. And I think it's one of those things where you think about faith, and so many people in their experiences have been religion is really what defines their picture, how they grew up, how they were raised, the church they grew up in, and I just it screams to me rules, rituals, which is religion in many cases, but faith is a different aspect than the Holy Spirit living and breathing and working with you and aligning yourself around the truths of God and biblical principles, and understanding the way God has called us, Jesus has called us to live. He showed us how to live. How have you developed this level of steadfastness clearly through some of these experiences? But my guess is the Lord will continue to point you to himself and draw you in. But I think that experience also required you to lean into someone you knew, or even men into this case. How are you still staying in that environment around being strong and seeking him first, and in the midst of trying to grind and go? So I love to hear that, because I know there's some meat there around men in your life and what you've been through.
Yeah, I'm a huge it's a 3-level approach. I want to have those who are above me, my Pauls. I want to have those who are beside me, my Jonathans, my Barnabases. But I want to have those who are below me, my Timothys. Yeah, you probably heard that before, right?
Well, that exactly no, but I
want to have
mentorship.
men in my life who are just training me, teaching me, by the way, business-wise, right? How to lead my family, how to lead, so that before this, I was in a Thursday morning leadership group, some elders and some other just men, 50 years old, and other men who are 38, like just
some of the best parts about pickleball, by the way. You just don't get it in the same context.
Yeah. But that's what it is, right? I need to be living life. One of my biggest pet peeve that's happened in the Western society is education, and it's education based on age-specific school systems. My best learning has not been because I was with other 12-year-old boys learning math.
Yeah.
My best education has been older men teaching me how to run a business, how to lead my family, and how to be a man of character.
Yeah.
Right. So it's the multi-generational aspect of growing as a man, as a male, as a leader, as a father, as a husband. Like I need to have men who are 60. My grandfather, who's 83 now, who was a gospel singer for 45 years. How do I see him every week? Who's just the most faithful man I've ever known. And just like, I need to be around him. I need to be around 20-year-olds. How do I serve myself around high schoolers? Do you know how hard that is? Like, you don't just run into high schoolers. My boss has a 18-year-old son. And I'm like, I got to be around him. Because I know how influential a 28-year-old was when I was his age.
Dude, totally.
Right? And
totally.
I don't want to say, like, it's not a ton of effort to actually be influential. I think that's the lie.
Yeah.
It's you really have to, you got to know everything. You got to be this specific person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Incredible.
We all suck at some point. And we just got to be obedient.
Yeah. And so specifically, you've had mentors, you've been able to walk alongside men that have sharpened you and challenged you, hold you accountable. And knowing the power of that drives you to want to be able to do that back and create your own Timothys, right? And I know that time is running out. And the life we live is incredible, where we get these chances to sharpen and see other men make massive change. But I think it's hard for men to want to pursue that and find that, because I think what you're describing here, I've experienced, but it took me a long time to find, because everyone knows, the world knows that men, it's hard to find and make connections in the way that is healthy and appropriate, and in a way that your wife is excited, and okay with it. So that's been a huge part of your life, is walking with men in a context, men in the kingdom, as we've described. And I think we could go pretty in depth with that alone. But why don't you just, as we close and wrap here, take us through kind of the final things around how your role as a husband, father, leader, a man of faith, really creates a structure for success for the future. And success for the future being, when I get to the end of my life, we get to face God himself, and he says, well done, my good and faithful servant, right? So just paint us a picture here, what you believe a framework for being successful is at life, right? I love to hear this and see where it goes.
Josh, you painted it perfectly. And here's how you did it. The steps we take today should never be based on today's problems. Every single thing we do has to be predicated on when I'm 50, on when I'm 55, when I'm 60. And I know it sounds crazy, but it's like this. It just is.
With the end in mind,
right? With the end in mind of what do I want my life to be like when I'm 55 and 60? The generations that are going to be below me, the influence that I have, I need to start with that. So for me, I'm like, when I'm 60, I want to be a pillar of the faith. I want to be somebody who has 10 plus grandkids that all look to their grandfather, like I have to mine, by the way.
So cool.
And say, like, how do I be like him?
Yeah.
I want to have a business where people come to faith, where they work hard, they're challenged. Generations are changed financially. Think about that. They have
100%.
Financial freedom through that
100%.
business. So I'm thinking, okay, Alex, in 32 years, I have 32 years to get to that point. And so today I'm thinking, okay, how do I disciple my children today?
One little step.
One step. How do I teach my son that he's a sinner who's in need of God's grace? And I'm just going to go to your book. It's not about religion. It's not about following rules. No, it is a relationship. It is. In business, is a relationship. Nobody wants to do transactional business. You want to work with people for years and years and years. But in the same way, so how do I do that today? And then in 5 years, when my son is 11 years old and I'm hanging out with all his friends, how do I take his friends and go on a trip? And I go and disciple each and every one of them, and I bring their sons. And by the way, how am I setting my son up to be successful with other dads?
Dude.
Because guess what? Your 13-year-old, I bet he doesn't listen as much as another dad who comes into his life.
You know what?
I know it sucks to hear, Josh, but guess what?
You know what? 100% true, man.
It's true.
I'm the same kid. I'm the same guy. It's still, my dad could tell me all day long, right? But it ain't him who's going to convince me, but it's going to be all of the work that he did, and someone else gets to, put the final touches on it, right? We all get a job and planting and sowing and watering and fertilizing, right? And it takes time.
So when I think about the grand journey, that's what I'm going to call it, the grand journey of life that God gives us, that is not ours, right? We serve a God who desires for us to have the greatest amount of joy and the greatest amount of pleasure. One of my favorite verses, Psalm 16, right? At his right hand are pleasures forevermore. What if we started sharing the gospel with that?
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, you're a sinner, Josh. There's a God who loves you and redeems you and has a life full of joy and pleasure at his right hand. But
you're right.
But you're
dude.
a sinner in need of a savior.
Yeah.
It's not about this, and this.
Yeah.
No, it's the best life is lived in this manner.
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm experiencing it.
Yeah.
It's not because we live on this house or this or any of that.
Yeah.
It's the fact that I wake up and I know I'm a child of God. I know I've been redeemed. I know that all my failures in life have served a purpose and have been redeemed. The fact that he's a redeeming God and takes my sinfulness and somehow turns it for his good. It's my favorite path.
I love it.
It's so good.
Yeah. Dude. So wise. And one last thing I mentioned too, and like you take away all of those rules and rituals, that long list. And I just keep pointing back to the ultimate example, the model, right, in which to live. If we literally just all lived with love, because God said, love God, love others, right? First and second commandment. And when we think about that, how much the world changes if we take that to heart and then model the principles that he taught us. They're all there. And think about if every single time, whether your wife does this or not, or a colleague does this, or a customer does this, gives you a hard time, or, passive aggressive, or guilt trip, or yelling or swearing at you, whatever these circumstances are, and we just simply respond in love. There's no other way. Yeah. If you respond in love, that person's going to continue. And if maybe it is going to continue that first time, but that second time, or that third time, or that fourth time, 77 times 7, we're to forgive. And now you have this good Father who not only has redeemed us, but he showed us how to live through his Son, and the impact with when he's living in us to transform our own lives is the story that I get to live every day, because I was the guy who said, I'm going to go work hard and do this for me and provide for my family. But God just wants me to be here and do what he's asked me to do, and be obedient and be patient and read his word and apply it to not only by hearing what he says, but through my wife as one unit, to then teach and show my children how to live. And man, I'm failing so bad. I'm failing so bad. And seriously, and this is why the podcast for me is so just how life is. We are humans. We all fall short, period. End of story.
End of story.
I don't care what success we have, we will have that problem, right? And so,
how do I love people with that truth?
That's it. That's it. So I don't care what denomination you are. I don't care if you're Lutheran, Baptist, Pentecostal, Catholic, evangelical, even Jewish. Like, if you think for a second, this man came here, and you just go through the scriptures. There was no agenda besides one thing for him to do his Father's will. And we look at that, and history shows there is literally the number one selling book, right, of all time, the Bible.
Yep.
There are not more facts that support the history of this man walking earth, who came here and said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no one comes to the Father except through me, right? And we have the old book around, he's either a lunatic, a liar, or Lord, right? Yeah. And let's just look at the facts, and how can we start today? Let's just open the scripture. So, dude, thank you so much. I really could go all day, because I know, I'm sure you're a disciplined man. What time were you up today?
It was a 4:30 morning.
4:30 a.m. Like,
I go to bed at 9:30 though. You get your 7 hours.
Yeah, incredible, bro. Well, with little kids, and some of that is just like, I'm exhausted. It's been a long day. Nighttime, right?
It's nap time.
Well, right. So good having you here, brother. Thanks for tuning in to an episode of Successfully Unsuccessful, Mr. Alex Andersen. So great to have him here in the house. Take care. Have a great day. God bless. Dude. Oh, slightly off kilter on the camera there. Nice job, dude. Seriously, if we would have just kept rolling, it would have been sound bites after sound bites. And I know you're cutting it close here, so thanks for bearing with me.
Oh,
I know you had a hard stop.